Just last month, I was pleased and honored to welcome the Honorable Cleveland Mayor Justin M. Bibb back to his alma mater. He delivered his very first State of the City address just a few blocks away from here, inside Silver Hall at the Maltz Performing Arts Center. And today, we welcome Mayor Bibb back to campus again, this time to be your convocation speaker. We are very proud of Mayor Bibb, who is a 2018 graduate of the Case Western Reserve School of Law and the Weatherhead School of Management. In fact, he has shared that the degrees he earned from Case Western Reserve strengthened his belief that he could one day lead this city. We are honored to have played such a critical role in his life. Born and raised in Cleveland, Mayor Bibb has been a leader in government, business, and the nonprofit sector. He's also served on the university's Government Relations Advisory Committee. Mayor Bibb is a champion for change, and we are honored that he joins us today to inspire you to achieve, serve, and lead. Please welcome to the podium your 2022 Convocation Speaker, the 58th Mayor of the City of Cleveland, Justin Bibb.
Good morning, graduates. I'm just so delighted to be back on campus and celebrate your achievements today. Now, I know it's Sunday morning, and I grew up in the Baptist church, and Mr. President, as my pastor would say, I'm not gonna hold you too long, but trust me, because I know you all have a lot of celebrating to do. Thank you to President Kaler, Board of Trustees, deans, faculty, and staff for the invitation to be here. It truly is an honor and a privilege. To the families, friends, and loved ones of the graduates with us today, and here in spirit, congratulations and thank you for all you've done to support the class of 2022. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, in case they haven't told you yet today, these graduates appreciate all you've done to help them get here. No one makes it to this wonderful day alone. For a minute, I want you to take a moment to look around at your friends, your colleagues, your mentors, and your teachers, and remember this moment. Let it really sink in. Take all the selfies and boomerangs you can. Take your time today to really mark the end of this important and formative chapter, because the relationships you've made right here are just as important as your newly minted degrees. Treasure them and do your best to keep them as you launch into the next chapter of your lives. As a double alumnus of this university, I can tell you that I continue to rely on the relationships and the connections that I made right here as a student. I found my home at the Weatherhead School of Management and at the law school, just as I know you found your home in your respective schools and programs. And for the record, the Alumni Association did not tell me to tell you this, but I do encourage you to stay connected to Case and to each other. Use the resources and connections that they offer you to help you on the journey ahead. Because trust me, you will need them every single day as you chart your next chapter. Now, I'm the mayor, but I'm not here to talk to you today about politics or policy or the challenges that the world is looking for all of you to solve. Well, at least not right at the gate. But instead, I want to talk to you about your why. What brought you to this moment? And the questions you're asking yourselves about what's next. Because I have no doubt that many of you, being the smart, organized, and analytical Case students that you are, know exactly where you're headed and have every step of the way all planned out, researched, footnoted, the whole 9 yards. Medical students are headed to residencies, law students to clerkships, undergrads to grad school, and exciting first jobs. But these are just the opening lines of your next chapter and the continuation of a long journey ahead. It is such an exciting time. Now, as you keep writing your story, I encourage you to engage with the world around you and hone in on your why. What motivates you? What energizes you? What keeps you up at night? Engage with these things and really explore them, even if it takes you on a plan that you didn't expect. And I know this from firsthand experience. My story, like many of my generation, was significantly impacted by 9/11. The day our nation experienced a horrific terrorist attack that killed nearly 3,000 Americans. I was a freshman in high school on this terrible day and was still processing the events and the impact they had on our nation when I started my undergrad at American University in Washington, D.C. just 4 years later. At the time, I was studying international relations, political science, and was learning Arabic. My plan was to get involved in anything and everything that could help me unpack this tragedy and play whatever role I could in ensuring that nothing like that ever happened again to our country. Now, some of you may also know that I had a dream from a very young age of becoming mayor of our great city of Cleveland, Ohio. But I felt deep in my heart that I was being called elsewhere too. You see, 9/11 captured me so deeply at the time, and it was my why. But then I had a pivot. I landed a fellowship to do community organizing in the southeast side of DC. And at the time, DC had some of the highest rates of high school dropouts in the country, some of the highest rates of HIV and AIDS that rivaled third world nations. And in many ways, it reminded me of my block in Cleveland on the southeast side where I grew up. I saw the people, the poverty, and the inequity. I also saw the opportunities for improvement and change. By that time, I'd also been heavily influenced by an extraordinary leader that I met during my freshman year as a Capitol intern, President Barack Obama, when he was serving in the U.S. Senate. And struggling with which path to take, I asked the president for some advice. And I remember this day very vividly. We were eating pizza out of the box in the conference room, and he said to me, "Justin, your aim in life should be to do something, not just be anything. Focus on the impact. Focus on the impact." So I decided to start a new chapter. I began in earnest to gather the skills, the education, and experience I knew I would one day need to run for mayor one day. The seeds of my campaign were planted. Now, I just had to do the work. Just like all of you in this room have done and continue to do the work for what's next. Now, believe me when I say that I heard every reason you can imagine about why I should not run for mayor and why I couldn't win. They said I was a newcomer, that I hadn't paid my political dues. They called me naive and just a kid. They talked about how I had limited job and life experiences. They told me that I had to wait my turn. The list goes on. But as it turns out, the naysayers and detractors were wrong. And no doubt, in your lives, as you leave Case today, you'll have people in your lives from time to time who hope to convince you that you can't do the things that you dream about doing. But I'm here to tell you two things about that. Number one, trust your gut, not the noise. Number two, don't let anyone make you afraid to fail, because failure is life's most important teacher. When we are too afraid to try, we will always regret it later. And I'm here to tell you this, that you got this, and this is your moment. This is your time to be bold, to challenge the status quo, and to be fearless. And if you know anything about Case's history, you know that you will be in a very good company as you go after your big, audacious dreams. So many notable alumni and world-changing discoveries have come out of this university over the last 196 years. One of my personal heroes, the late, great Lou Stokes, Ohio's first black congressman, graduated right here in 1954. A year later, civil rights icon Fred Gray received his degree from the law school. Stephanie Tubbs Jones shattered barriers as Ohio's first black woman to become a common pleas judge, county prosecutor, and congresswoman. Four Nobel laureates, Paul Berg, Fareed Murad, Edward C. Prescott, and Richard Thaler, changed the world with discoveries in biochemistry, medicine, and economic sciences. And today, you join the ranks of scholars, inventors, activists, innovators, and icons. Incredible people who have done extraordinary things and have made history. And things did not always go as planned. Just down the street, in the basement of a dormitory in July 1887, Albert Michelson and Evan Morley tried to detect the motion of the Earth through the luminiferous aether, a theoretical substance which, according to 19th century physics, was essential to the transmission of light. Their negative result ultimately became what has been called the most famous failed experiment in history. For 18 years, members of the scientific community were puzzled over the result until in 1905, the Michelson-Morley experiment was not only explained, but also used as confirmation for Einstein's theory of relativity. You see, even in failure, because of it, in fact, this experiment was so important that over 100 years later, the site of the former Adelbert Dormitory on the Case Mall was named an American Physical Society historic site for its significance to the field. What an incredible shoulders for you all to stand on, and what an incredible legacy that you have inherited. As you write your next chapter, what will be your place in this legacy? Just several weeks ago, while at a mayor's conference in DC, I had the opportunity to hear Congressman Jim Clyburn share something that moved me in a very profound way. He was reflecting on our nation's long march toward the promise of justice and opportunity for all, and the role that Dr. King had in helping move the moral consciousness of America during the Civil Rights Movement. Congressman Clyburn talked about King's notion of time as described in the famous letter from the Birmingham jail. In that letter, King asserts that we as humans sometimes irrationally assume that the flow of time will inevitably cure all ills. Challenging this notion, King proclaims that time is neutral. He profoundly says that time can be used either destructively or constructively, and that the people of ill will have used their time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. So the question I want to leave with you today is, how will you spend your time when you leave this place? I pray you choose to join me in the army of goodwill and live out the values you have learned right here at this university. Cleveland needs you, America needs you, the world needs you. Stay strong, stay humble, and always always have the courage to dream big. Congratulations to the class of 2022.
Thank you, Mayor Bibb. Thank you for encouraging our graduates to go boldly, to challenge themselves, and to embrace the lessons of today. You've given them much to consider as they move forward. You've inspired us today, and we're very grateful. Thank you.